Welcome to Mom's Grab Coffee, where you'll be filled with wisdom, faith, and hope through real testimonies from moms of how God works in our lives. I'm your host, Hannah Lapsansky, and I invite you to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready, my friend. We're about to speak the truth.
Inhale is the I, so we're breathing. Inhaling is calming our nervous system. It's physical, like a real thing. We have a bone in our brain called the sphenoid bone. As you're breathing, it rocks back and forth. It massages the pituitary gland. It sends out the chemicals, the hormones that say, calm down. So that's why deep breathing is a big deal.
Hey, sweet friend, that was just a sneak peek of what you are going to hear today from life coach Natalie Hixson. It's part of her sit and pray method, and it's all about how we come down from really high, overwhelming, stress-filled situations. And she's going to talk about that method in the context of overcoming destructive anger. Now, she'll talk about what the difference between destructive anger and regular anger is, and she'll use some really raw moments in her testimony to illustrate what destructive anger actually looked like in her own life, and how she found healing from that through God. So if you're struggling with destructive anger, you are going to find so much hope, healing, and tools to help you overcome it. And if you're not, I still encourage you to stick around because her sit and pray method is going to work for all kinds of emotions and help you anchor yourself to God. So let's get into it. It is my pleasure to welcome Natalie Hixson and her story. Well, let's jump into the topic here. So I want to start with a fundamental question, and that is the relationship between anger, mom guilt, and overwhelm. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so anger, I define anger in two different ways. And one would be more of a healthy, normal anger. And then there's this destructive anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just break it down really quick for you. The healthy, normal anger, that is just the feeling we get. We are irritated, we're frustrated, we have kind of hit our limit, and we're feeling that energy of just that angry feeling. We might stomp our foot, we might slam a door, we might say something we wished we hadn't, or maybe raise our voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we're
Yep.
actually using that to get the kid's attention or somebody's attention. So that is a normal thing for all humans, not just moms, to experience, right? But where we get into the destructive behavior is when we're trying to manipulate or control an outcome, and we're also hurting a relationship with how we are acting. And so usually that is expressed in anything from the screaming to, it's more than just a door slam, it's slamming it like repeatedly or in somebody's face, abusive, physical abuse. We can also have some passive aggressive behaviors where we just stop talking and, withdraw, or we have the belittling and threatening, all those type of things are more of that destructive thing where we're out of control, basically. In my places of rage, and I'll talk about my story a little bit more in a minute, but really it was one of those kind of almost out of body experience for me where I would click into this place of screaming and anger and rage, and then I would come back to myself like, what just happened? Right?
Yeah.
So losing control in that way. So that's kind of the defining, when we look at anger, that's how I define it. And then overwhelm, right? That being overwhelmed can lead us into those places of the heightened emotions, especially around one emotion, and we actually don't give a lot of credit to, is disgust, which will, we look at disgust, fear, anger, sadness, and joy are kind of the five main emotions. And disgust, fear, and sadness can quickly actually filter right into anger because we are vulnerable in those other three states. And so we'll go to anger to control a situation or to protect ourselves. So in overwhelm, when moms are overwhelmed, we've got any any gamut of things going on in our world, right? Whether it's sickness
Mm-hmm.
or just normal daily routines or trying to do all the things, running late, somebody's not listening, somebody's fighting,
Oh, yes.
whatever it is. Yeah, or even if we step out of motherhood and we've got other influences, right? Where maybe we're on social media and we see something disturbing, or there's a news thing that gets us, or a friend, texts us something that throws us off guard, or maybe we're having a difficult time of communication with our husbands. Anything can add to our overwhelm, including physical things of lack of sleep and that type of stuff. So that can get us run down emotionally, physically, spiritually, put us kind of in that overwhelmed state. And then we're using these negative emotions to protect and like survive and control. And then
Mm-hmm.
we use those, if we go into those states, then we have that guilt. And then guilt, there's a couple different things of guilt. We've got the convicting guilt that's healthy. Like we want to be convicted. We want the Lord to convict our hearts to where we need to grow, where we need to repent, whether it's with another person or Him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the guilt that we carry that we don't need to be burdened with, but we feel like we need to punish ourselves. And so we hold on to that guilt, making us, feel either feel bad about our situation and again, like punishing ourselves, or we're using it for self pity and getting pity for others. So it's kind of almost morbid, but we're licking our wounds through that guilt. So we have to kind of filter through, what kind of guilt am I feeling right now? Is this something the Lord is impressing on me to convict me? Or is this something I'm holding on and not giving to God for my own prideful, selfish, sinful reasons?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we look at all of those things, so anger, mom guilt, overwhelm, there are healthy expressions of that, but then there are unhealthy expressions. And so you have gone through a pretty uh, major experience in kind of that unhealthy space,
Hmm.
but you have some really, really meaningful tactics that we can use to still be able to express those emotions, right? Because we don't want to suppress our anger, because then at some point it's just going to explode like a volcano, but be able to still feel that emotion, still even feel that mom guilt, but in a way that's healthy and that moves us forward, and that it builds the relationships with our kids, our families, and our loved ones, versus creating all these tense relationships. And so, Natalie, I'd love to get into your story here. How did anger and rage show up in your motherhood? Could you just walk us through that whole journey of entering that state where you felt like, who is this? What am I doing? And then finding Christ in that, and healing and redemption.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I grew up witnessing anger from a destructive place. My parents were loud, they were yellers, door slammers. And so that's how I learned to experience anger myself and model it. I didn't learn how to process it in a healthy way. Since then, I always like to say my parents have grown in their own journeys with the Lord, and they are much healthier. And we've had so much restoration between my relationship with them. And so that's been really beautiful. But taking that into marriage, when I first got married, when I got married, um, we, I married someone who was more quiet and kind of more from a home that they didn't deal with conflict as much. It was more avoided or somewhat passive aggressive. And so when we moved in together, we started to realize that he was quiet and I was loud. And I can remember screaming at him and just so angry over something, can't even remember what at this point. And I remember going, why won't you just yell back at me?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, because that's not what I do. And it wasn't. He would really withdraw and get quiet. And so I noticed at that point, oh, there's something different, right? This
Mm-hmm.
isn't normal. And although we'd been dating since we were in high school, we'd been dating for 5 years, it didn't really show up in an awareness for me until we were living together after marriage. So, um, it was even to a point where I'd wondered, should I have kids because I get so angry? But then I was like, well, it's just Scottish Irish blood. This is who we are, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think there was a way to change, basically. Fast forward, we brought Enya, our oldest, home. Again, she's 18 well, she'll be 19 this year. So this is quite a while ago. But we bring her home, and when she gets into about her twos, when she's, getting a little more defiant and doing a normal 2-year-old behavior, I wasn't reacting to it well. I would try to control her. And so you could find both of us on the floor throwing tantrums. Like I was just as 2-year-old in my emotional maturity as she was. And so it's like blind leading the blind at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still didn't know that there was any way to change. And it was frustrating because her tantrums would begin to get more and more epic. And then mine also would rise. And it got abusive, and it's not something I'm proud of. It's not something I enjoy sharing, but I share what I'm about to share with my story because it's important that if any other mom is out there experiencing this, she needs to know she's not alone and that there is, she can change, and it has not destroyed her relationship with her kids for the rest of their life. Anyways, I was very abusive. I would leave bruises on Enya. I would scream at her in her face. I would slam doors. It was very scary and very traumatic for both of us, right? Especially her, though. And so, again, I'm feeling helpless. I don't know that there's hope for me. I don't know that there's any way I can change. My husband tries to step in when he could. He'd try to, but then I would escalate and even get abusive with him, right? And so it was just kind of this frustrating, we don't know what to do. In fact, it was to the point where he wanted another kiddo, and I was like, not unless you work at home. I will end up hurting Enya
Mm-hmm.
and the next baby. I can't do this without you home. And he did actually get a job that he could work at home at that point when we had our second. But things didn't change for me at that point. But there was this moment where I was nursing Sky, our next girly, and he's putting Enya to bed. And I'm in a room with the door shut. Enya's down the hall in another room, and I hear her epic tantrum. And I'm just sitting there nursing, getting more and more upset hearing this. And all of a sudden, I just burst out for her to shut up. And Sky stops nursing, and she looks up at me, and she's just this horrific little baby face. I'll never forget it. Just starts bawling. And I was like,
Mm-hmm. Oh
something
man.
has to change. This is not okay. And my
Mm-hmm.
first thought is, I can't change, so we need to help Enya. If Enya would
Mm-hmm.
stop her tantrums, if she could stay calm, I wouldn't get so upset. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at this point, I'm still in denial and I'm still thinking there's no hope for me.
Mm-hmm.
So we took her to a therapist, and she observed Enya and she observed us. And then she met with us alone, and she said Enya was a perfectly normal child for her age and development. And I kind of laugh. I'm like, well, you're not at home with her. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
she's great for other people.
Yeah. Yep.
And then she looked at me and she said, no, Natalie, you need to be in here. And
Oh
it was
boy.
just one of those, wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah. What
You
was
know,
your
it's
reaction when you heard that?
It took me back for aback, but at the same time, I was like, somebody is telling me, like somebody's reaching out their hand saying there is hope and there
Mm-hmm.
is help, and it's going to start with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, as hard as it was to take that, I was like, yes, whatever we need to do, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that started that was the ball that got my healing going. And so I spent 4 years of therapy. It was psychoanalysis therapy. And it was great as far as I learned a lot about my history, about me. So it definitely got me into a place of, hey, I can change. But I left therapy about 4 years later, and I still had the pattern of yelling and
Mm-hmm.
getting into these little bouts of rage. It was starting to calm down, but it hadn't gotten to what I would say is a healthy place yet, right?
Mm-hmm. And at that point, did you still not really recognize yourself when you got into those moments?
I recognized it. At that point, I was more in a place of, why can't I make this stop? I
Mm-hmm.
recognize that it's me. I know I can change, but why isn't it changing? I mean, there was moments I can remember just praying out to the Lord, like prayers like, why did you give me these kids if I can't love them the way that you need me to love them? Why
Mm-hmm.
did you allow me to be a mother if I'm just going to be this angry mom who can't overcome it? So I was angry at him. I was angry that he would allow this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thoughts of they would be better off without me, and I'd be better off without them. Uh, and so there was this anger that I couldn't, part of the anger that I was struggling with at that point was I can't get over this, but I want to.
Mm.
I know it's me, but it's not changing. But
Yeah.
I couldn't settle. And I wasn't going to leave my family, even though the enemy was for sure tempting me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord was stronger. Thank the Lord. He's so much stronger, right?
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And so he continued, I continued to pursue him, and he continued to lead me. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
looking back, I recognize that these things were things I had to go through in order for me to grow on my journey, to do what I'm doing today. But also, my kids had to go through these things. It's the most redemptive way I can look back at it. This is my kid's journey too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things that he's going to use to help them along their path, that they will be able to look back at these. And this is how we talk in our families, this is how we walk forward, is what was meant for evil, the Lord is redemptive and restorative, and he
Mm-hmm.
makes good, and he's going to use that challenge to, um, for whatever purpose he has for you that you've grown through.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much. And I see it time and time again. Our dark seasons, our horrible moments, he really does use it for good to
Yes.
influence, to glorify him, to build us up in him. So I truly believe, yeah, that will happen.
Hmm. Yes. So he continued, I continued to follow him, and it was through different business ventures that I was trying that he continued to grow me on the personal side.
Hmm.
And I ended up going through life coaching, and getting my life coaching certification at the Christian Life Coaching Institute. And at that point, I thought, I'm helping moms. I'm going to help moms organize things and not be so overwhelmed.
Hmm.
Um, but that wasn't like, there really wasn't anything happening there. Like my business wasn't taking off in that place. But I was in a mastermind group with some women, and two of us stayed up late talking one night, and we started talking about our motherhood journeys. And both of us had dealt with motherhood anger and rage. And, I'll say it personally, at that point, I had been getting more mature. And that's part of it, is recognizing that we have to take responsibility for our healing, right?
Hmm.
And first of all, recognizing, as you'll see in my story, that I recognize, okay, I'm the one who has to change.
Hmm.
Now I have to take responsibility and figure out, what does that change look like? And asking the Lord to lead me so that I will heal through his redemptive, because healing through the Lord is healing that will be sustained,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
solid.
yeah. And so yeah, we stayed up late talking about our stories, and she's like, "Oh my word, you've got to get on my podcast and talk about your story." And
Hmm.
so I did. And then after that podcast went live, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now, moms started reaching out. They're like, "How
Mm.
do I heal? What do I do to they connected with it, resonated?" And so that's where the coaching started for the anger and destructive behavior.
Hmm.
And it was really through coaching moms that I started to see the next level of healing in my own life. It
Mm.
kept me accountable to what we were walking through. And it also gave me so much relatability with the other moms of what we're dealing with.
Hmm.
I notice typically I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead of where these moms are when they come to me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm able to help them coach through that mindset. And that's what it is. It's these taking responsibility, it's mindset shifts, it's walking through some past pains, and understanding how the Lord can restore and redeem.
Mm-hmm.
And learning some of these tactical things as well, as far as how do we work through these things in the moment.
And I think there's something really interesting in your story in that you had 4 years of psychotherapy sessions, and then you stopped and you still found that anger. And then you went to the Lord for that sustained healing
Mm,
and found it.
yes.
And not only that, you found a greater purpose. And so you are obedient to God's
Mhm.
calling. You said it yourself, you don't have all of the answers. You're a few steps ahead beyond what other moms might be going through right now in their anger journey, but you're being obedient to God and He's leading you that
Yeah.
way. So I'd love to talk about how God showed up through the second part of your restoration process. If we think about the psychotherapy as the first part, what did that period look like and how did God show up?
So, one of the really cool things that I will forever appreciate from my instructor in coaching school was she basically made it a point to say, if you're going to be coaching Christian clients and you claim to be Christian yourself, then you better have a relationship with the Lord and a solid one.
Mm.
Because if you
Mm-hmm.
can't hear Him, how can you help them in through His, in the way that He needs you to help
Mm-hmm.
them?
Yeah.
So it was very clear that I needed to spend daily time with the Lord. I have to recognize His voice in order to hear it in my life.
Mm.
And I won't recognize His voice if I don't spend enough time with Him to do that. And so let me pause there for a minute. One thing with my clients I'm very clear about is God knows what season you're in. And He knows that you don't have every waking morning, every morning to wake up and spend an hour with Him,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Especially if you have littles.
Yes.
Most of the time, your littles are the one waking you up because
Yeah.
you bet your dead dog tired,
Ain't that the truth?
right? Yeah, and there's a big push, that I have felt and even felt guilty over it in some of my journey, where it was like, you got to wake up every morning and give your first fruits to the
Mm-hmm.
Lord. And while I agree and understand that concept, when you are a mother of young children, that's not realistic. So something that I encourage my clients, and they're actually required to check in with me at least 3 to 4 times a week, is I'm like, I
Mm.
want consistent time with the Lord. I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 2 hours.
Yeah.
I just want to know that you're checking in with Him. And so we go over things like, I have little devotionals. Oh, I have some on my phone, and then I have one in my car. I have one in my bathroom. I
Mm.
have one in my kitchen, like little things tucked away, so that if there's 5 minutes, you sit down for 5 minutes, you can pick this up and digest something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hear from
Yes.
the Lord. So I just really want to encourage any moms out there, especially if young children, at this stage in my life with basically teenagers, I do get that time with the Lord. Not every morning, but most mornings I do get an hour with Him. So it's something to look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not realistic when you've got littles running around and you're nursing and all of that. So I just really want to encourage moms out there, if you're feeling guilty that you aren't spending this deep, long time with the Lord, first of all, ask for conviction and time. He will give it to you.
Mm.
When you give Him time, He gives it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So ask Him for conviction. Where am I spending time on something where I could spend time with you, Lord, even if it's for 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So I rabbit trailed there, but that's really, really important. We have to know the Lord's voice, and we have to hear His voice in those moments of when we're starting to get angry. We want to hear Him. I can remember praying, Lord, grip my shoulders,
Mm.
shake
Mm-hmm.
me, Lord, stop me from the rage, help me hear you. That's my craving, and that's my prayer, because I wanted Him to shake me, not me to shake my child,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And so and He was faithful to guiding me through that and helping me as I was faithful to
Mm-hmm.
Him. So it was really, first of all, starting to tune in with Him on a regular basis, not worrying about what exactly that looked like, except that I was always trying to get some scripture, or even a devotional, and say a prayer. And the other thing is turn things off, either when I'm on a walk
Mm.
or in the car, if I can turn something off. Um, at some point, the kids are napping, taking a few minutes just to let everything be quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we can hear him.
Right.
Shower prayers are great too.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And weaving it into your daily routines, I think is really fantastic. I had
yes,
a guest who said she spends time with God every time she goes to the bathroom. And again, with little
yes,
kids,
yeah,
sometimes that's not even a private place. But, you know, if you can get
yep,
in 60 seconds just to connect with the
yep,
Lord, then that could bring down your anger, bring down your state of overwhelm. All those micro moments, I think, can make a really big difference.
yes. A conversation with him throughout the day. I had a
Mm-hmm.
client who didn't think about that, and she was like, "I didn't even realize I could do that." And I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
I look at it with our relationship with our husbands. If we were in a scenario where a husband left for work, right, and we stayed home with the kids, we're just going to go with that analogy. Um, Kiss him in the morning, say goodbye, walks off, goes to work. He comes home at night, walks through the door. You tell him why you're upset. You tell him what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You tell him thanks for bringing home the bacon, and kiss him. And then you don't talk to him the rest of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what
Yeah.
kind of relationship will you have with your husband? And that's the kind of prayers that I found myself in my relationship with the Lord before I was really convicted. It was, Lord, I'm so frustrated about this. Lord, would you please take care of that? Lord, thanks for this. And okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's a one-sided communication relationship. We to really hear him and grow, we want to look at our relationship with him like we would our husband, and he gives us that example in the word,
Mm-hmm.
right? He talks about the Christ and his bride, or if we're looking at Israel and God. So he really helped me through that by convicting me, daily time with me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's amp up our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Through that, he was able to lead me with certain mentors and even working with certain clients. I mean, I can't tell you how many coaching calls I've been on where I'm coaching, and at the end of it, I'm like, that was all for me. It's just the moment you feel the connection. You're like,
Right?
the Holy Spirit's
Yeah.
talking, and I'm taking it into
Right.
heart.
Yep.
And the client just got a benefit.
Yep.
So
He's using it.
it's really powerful.
Yeah. That's
Yes,
amazing.
100%. So powerful and
Oh
neat.
my goodness. So, anger is a regular, normal emotion, right? Whether it's in because of
Yes.
parenting or jobs or whatever. So, when you get angry today, what is the first thing you do to bring yourself back?
So I teach what's called sit and pray. The S stands for stop, separate, if possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, the bathroom at any age with the kids is such a great place because, I mean, I know we've got little infants and stuff, but let's talk about separating yourself. If you have the ability, go to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom. And you can use this whether you're working with your kids, your husband, in laws, coworkers, anyone. I gotta go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, right? Nobody wants you to stand there and
Right.
pee your pants. You don't have to tell them why you're actually going.
Yes.
So, so that's why I say sit and I shorten it up, sit and pee to think, okay, let's go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So stop, separate if possible. Um, I will tell you for the moms out there who are like, I can't leave my kids unattended. I totally 100% understand that. I try in that way. I try to make a shift. So walk across the room or get off the floor, sit on the couch, something to kind of get your body moving and just making a definite, okay, I need to separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inhale is the I. So we're breathing. Inhaling is calming our nervous system. It's physical, like a real thing. We have a bone in our brain called the sphenoid bone. As you're breathing, it rocks back and forth. It massages the pituitary gland. It sends out the chemicals, the hormones that say, calm down.
Mm.
So that's why deep breathing is a big
Oh, that's
deal.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
as soon as you start to feel the emotions, take a deep breath and take some more breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, separate, and then tune in is T. So we're going, okay, I'm upset. It's okay that I'm upset. Often we've grown up feeling like anger is not okay, but I want you to say it's okay that I'm angry. Anyone's going to be angry in this moment. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're telling ourselves it's okay that we're feeling an emotion. And then we go to, why am I feeling this emotion? Am I hungry? Are they hungry? Are we tired? Are we overstimulated? Did I just get a piece of news that's not sitting with me right? I'm trying to take it out on the kids.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on for me? And then also looking at the kids, if we're thinking about any development age, looking at our kids going, the way they're acting right now isn't to spite me. It's appropriate for age and development. And that's a lot of places where moms get hooked up. I am not perfect at this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm raising teenagers right now. Even last night, we're on a hike, something happened and I felt slighted.
Mm-hmm.
I took it personally. And later in processing it with my husband, he's like, don't take it personally. That's just, what she was thinking or going through, a teenager, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And so I went and apologized later,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we will take things personally because we feel an emotion from it. Whereas we're looking at the kids going, wait, this is normal
Mm-hmm.
for them. It's like that therapist in the beginning. She's normal for her age and development.
Yeah.
So we're tuning in to not only us, but wondering what's going on for the other person involved or
Mm-hmm.
people. And then we're praying, Lord, please give me strength right now. Don't pray for patience.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't pray for patience.
Mm-hmm.
You might regret that. He will give you reasons to be patient.
Opportunities to be patient. Yeah.
Yes. Be like Solomon and pray for wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I pray for, Lord, please give me wisdom, discernment, understanding, and strength to walk through what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times moms will hear this and like, that's great. I love what you're saying, but that just does not sound realistic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I walk away and do all that?
Yeah.
What I teach my clients is take it steps, like try to make it a goal. Try to do at least one full sit today or 2 full sits if possible. And you'll notice that the more you implement, the more you start shifting your mind. It actually isn't even something where I rarely do I have to separate myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I'm able to like kind of just like a chain reaction in my head. I start breathing, I start thinking through it, even in that moment, staring at my kids. I'll feel that shift. So you can do it just in that moment. But it took kind of going through those steps because you're learning something new. You're retraining your brain and it's creating new, like literally new neuron pathways. So that's why if you can go through some of these in like the full steps and kind of start training yourself and thinking about it. Then I also have a free gift for your listeners called a trigger tracker. And that's something where to kind of cement some of this stuff in, you go back, you sit down and process. One of the things we don't do enough is we blow through our day and that's why we feel overwhelmed and out of control is because we don't stop to listen to ourselves or the
Mm-hmm.
Lord. And so, it's one of those things where we are in the cycle of, I'm not going to yell at my kids today. Wake up in the morning, first thing you do, you yell at your kids. And then it starts this spiral for the rest of the day. You go to bed feeling all this guilt, remorse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it again tomorrow. And you get up, repeat the cycle. If you're not stopping to find out what is going on for me and why am I doing these things, you're never going to break the cycle. You're going to stay in the cycle. And so the sit and pray is a cycle breaker, a spiral breaker, right? The trigger tracker is a cycle breaker because what it does is it gets you to stop and reflect on a past experience of why did you get so upset? It asks questions. What happened? What was going on for you? The not pretty question of what did you do?
Yeah.
What do you want this to look like next time? Was there anything else influencing you in this moment? What does the Lord say about this type of situation? And if anybody's like, what? It's a specific situation, not in the Bible. I always go into the internet and I'm like, okay, this situation, Bible verse, and I'll find something.
Yeah.
There's something out there. So that really helps you kind of bring yourself into awareness. So the next time something like that trigger happens, you're more aware of what's going on. And that's where we want to be the key is awareness. We want to stay in awareness of what's going on for me, what's going on for them. That helps us take more responsibility. That helps us have empathy, which is very, very important. Anyone who needs to hear it, empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. and we're losing it at such an
Yeah.
epic rate because of social media
Mm-hmm.
today. Um, so it's very important thinking about, even with your kids, how are my kids feeling right now? Because
Mm-hmm.
so many of us were raised with this authoritarian type parenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I there's absolutely a place for that in our motherhood journeys, but there's also this place of, would I want someone to talk to me the way I'm talking to my kid right now? What I want, and if they do talk to
Right.
me the
That's
way
so
I'm
true.
talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
if I'm talking to them the way they're talking to me, or if the roles are reversed, how would I be treating them? And so it's learning how to navigate the conversations and communications with our kids. So, but I should stop. So you might have questions.
Yeah, no, that is fantastic. I love that. The sit and pray. Separating, I think, just tends to diffuse ourselves. I mean, I do the same thing with my kids. If they are just operating at, 100, they can't stop their tantrums, they're screaming, and I have little ones. So
Hmm.
it happens every day.
Hmm.
um, I move them to a completely different location just to separate them from whatever was triggering them. So I love that. And the rest of the steps, I think those are super helpful.
Can I share something with what you're doing with your kiddos?
Hmm.
Something that will also benefit moms out there who are dealing with the little tantrum, not the littles in the tantrum phases, is what I was trying
Hmm.
to say. Um, is something that what I'm trying to help my clients do is something they didn't really get, and neither did I when I was being raised. Validation for how they're feeling and
Mm-hmm.
understanding of what's going on for them. So when your kiddo is angry, throwing a tantrum, looking at them and telling them it's okay that you're angry right now. I see that you're upset.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to cry. I even would tell my daughters, it's okay if you need to scream it out. And I mean, I even
Yeah.
did that on airplanes. I was like, I don't care what anybody else, because I saw what would happen. Like, I've had so many clients that are like, are you serious? Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I sounds crazy, but this is how it worked for me. When I would validate how they were feeling, they saw mom was listening. They were being heard. They were being told this is what they're feeling. So that helped them kind of get a, like, that tune in for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you
Yeah.
feeling? It's okay that you're feeling that way,
Yeah.
right? We're not saying it's okay if there was something that they did that was disobedient, but we're not looking at that. We're looking at our emotions. We got to calm down before we can do
Right.
corrections. Okay.
Yes.
So helping them. And so I even experimented on airplane one time with Enya when she was, little.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that if I was mean and was like, shh, shut up, don't, you're bugging everybody on the airplane, she would just get louder. And then I tried one time this very concept, and I don't even know where I got it. Okay. Just maybe it was the Lord. I don't know. But I just remember looking at her going, it's okay. I don't care about anybody else on this plane. It doesn't matter. You just cry it out, honey. And what happened is I just saw her start to de-escalate
Mm.
and calm down. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And now, after all that I've learned and understood over the years, it's really that validation and understanding and being heard and sympathizing, and then working through the process of what's actually going on, and um,
Yeah.
correcting if needed.
Right. Yeah. The de escalation, we all need it. This is awesome, Natalie. I know this is just a tiny bit of insight into how your coaching program works. So I'd love to have you talk about that a little bit more so moms know where to go and what to expect.
Yeah. So currently, I am actually under construction. I usually update my program whenever the Lord tells me to, and it's been a couple years, and so I felt the pull to revamp it a little bit. But basically, the how it actually works is there is some videos and some workbooks that my clients work through. But while they're working through that, we're working one-on-one through the Marco Polo app. I don't know if you've heard of
Mm-hmm.
it, but
Yeah, I have.
it's like a voice messaging video app. So we're working through that. And then we also have one-on-one calls as well that we meet up. And so that's really, we're walking through, what's going on, how are we, working through the heat of the moment stuff, the mindset shifts that need to take place. We're working through forgiveness and resentment, because that's a big piece to a lot of the destructive behavior that I experienced and that I see my clients experience. Is there's definitely some relational things from their past that we have to work through. So we're just kind of coaching through that. And then as things come up for them, triggers that'll happen, they'll get on and they'll be crying or angry or frustrated or feeling bad about what just happened. And we process through that through the tools and things that I provide and teach within the program.
Awesome. And thank you so much for offering your trigger tracker. I think just looking back and seeing patterns of why you're getting to a point where you're so angry or, or raging or whatever it is, I think that's going to be just a really important tool. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I said under construction. By January 2023, we're hoping to have everything back up and running, but absolutely join when you get the trigger tracker, you'll join my email list, so you'll be in the know when I'm opening my program back up.
Fantastic. Well, Natalie, thank you for sharing your story today. All right, friend, that was life coach Natalie Hixson. And whether you struggle with destructive anger or not, I hope the sit and pray method really helps your overwhelm, your anxiety, and your levels of stress. So try it out. Also, she mentioned the trigger tracker, which she's giving away to our listeners. Make sure to go to nataliehixson.com/momsgrabcoffee for that. I will also have a link to it in the show notes, as well as momsgrabcoffee.com/31. So really easy to just click on that link there to go check it out. And last note here, make sure you are subscribed to the show wherever you are listening, because I have a super exciting announcement coming up in the next few weeks, and I don't want you to miss it. Plus, as always, more guests who are going to help us figure out how do we connect with God throughout our busy days and find peace and joy through Him. Okay, sweet friend, that's all I have for today. I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll catch you again next time for a cup of pumpkin coffee with a side of faith, wisdom, and hope.